going on, guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Wi-Fi battle. Today I have a really special match. This one is going to be an underused match against TheKillerNacho. A lot of you are probably not familiar with who this guy is, but if you were around early on in the Pokemon community, you probably remember his name. But when I first started out on YouTube, he was one of the biggest competitive battlers, and we actually never ended up even battling each other. So now, like 5 years later, he's back into competitive battling. He's up and running on his channel, posting battle videos, and we decided to hop in a nice little underused match. So I decided to bring some familiar Pokemon on my team. Looking at his team, I am afraid of the Darmanitan. My main plan is to keep Choice Scarfed Flygon to be able to take that thing out. The Shaymin could definitely be a problem, and he also has things like the Gyarados, which could potentially set up on me with Dragon Dances, so I gotta prevent that. Anyways, let's go ahead and just hop into the match here. Okay, so I decided to lead off with my Flygon, just in case he might lead off with his Darmanitan, trying to get a U-turn switch or something. So, shiny-ass Salamence comes out here, and he actually ends up leading off with the Aerodactyl. So it definitely tells me he's probably going to be a Mega Aerodactyl, unless he's like the common like Gen 4 like Stealth Rock lead, but he does show the Mega. He's going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. I do not want to take an Ice Fang from this thing. I know these things got all sorts of different Fang moves and shit, so I'm going to go ahead and U-turn out of there. Flygon definitely needs to be preserved, like I said, for that Darmanitan later, so I get a little bit of damage off on the U-turn, and here I decide to switch into Reuniclus, I believe, just because I know that he does have Ice Fang. Cradily is not the easy switch into this thing, so he does go for the Ice Fang. Reuniclus is going to take that very nicely since I'm a Bolt defensive set, so I'm able to take any move from this thing. I know that Aerodactyls generally do carry Crunch and all that kind of shit, so I know I would be able to take at least one and hit it back with a Psyshock, although he doesn't want to risk his Aerodactyl taking damage, and he decides to switch into the Darmanitan here. So luckily for me, Darmanitan's going to take over half from the Psyshock, and I was like, hell yeah. I know that I probably don't want to take a Flare Blitz, considering Jelly is going to be useful for me later, and I know he's probably going to want to go for the U-turn to get that super effective damage, so he does go for the U-turn and knocks me below half at 78 HP, which really isn't that bad, considering after the leftovers, I'll be sitting, you know, at a decent amount of HP, plus I'll trade off that amount of damage on the Darmanitan for that anyways. So I decide to go for another Psyshock. I have really no reason not to, as he's just going to switch into the Shaymin, which takes that pretty nicely. I know that these little fucking hedgehog assholes can be an absolute pain. They're pretty defensive depending on what kind of set he's running. I do see that he did have leftovers, so I know it's not going to be a Life Orb set, which is pretty nice for me. So I decide now to switch into Cradildo, seeing as it's my special defense wall, although the only problem about this is that if he goes for the Seed Flare and gets the special defense drop. You'll see there he did actually miss the first Seed Flare, which is kind of annoying for him. It wouldn't have done a whole lot of damage, but potentially he could have gotten that special defense drop and maybe had a 2-hit KO, but yeah, so that's unfortunate. Here he's going to switch into his Porygon-Z, get the download, which is going to raise his attack, which is like, thank God, no special attack. I don't want to take an Ice Beam from this thing, so I take that opportunity to go ahead and throw out my Stealth Rocks, which is going to definitely help out with the Darmanitan switches and all that kind of fun stuff. So here I predict the Toxic, knowing that he doesn't have a whole lot to take care of Cradily. I decide to switch into Beedrill. I get the prediction right, so he does go for the Toxic. Doesn't affect me because I'm Poison type. Here, this allows me to go ahead and get up my Mega Evolution as he switches into his Swampert. I believe I'm just going to go for a U-turn, which is actually really nice because then I get the matchup against his Swampert with whatever I want, so that's kind of perfect. So Beedrill's going to Mega Evolve to get nice and sharp and all just badass looking and stuff as usual, and the U-turn is going to do a whole lot of damage, as U-turn usually does from a Mega Beedrill to pretty much anything in the underused here. So Pert takes the U-turn to the face, and it does a whole lot of damage, which is really nice, and this allows me to switch into Cradildo here, so I can scare this thing away with a Grass move. It's a kind of a risky prediction here. I actually predict him to switch, and I go for the Toxic, thinking he would never leave in Swampert against a Grass type, so I go for the Toxic, expecting maybe the Porygon-Z, but he actually ends up staying in, which was a really nice play on his part, and he gets up his own Stealth Rock, so good for him. We both have our rocks up, and at least this thing is poisoned, although I do not think he's going to want to stay in for another turn, risking a Giga Drain. Plus, seeing as he doesn't really have anything else to hit me with, I mean, he could potentially have Ice Punch, but it really wouldn't do too much. So I predict a switch again, and I go for a Toxic. He actually ends up switching into the Shaymin, which really isn't the best switch for me because this thing does have the natural Cure ability, so he can just switch out and get rid of his Toxic. But, you know, at least that's probably better than if I were to go for Giga Drain anyways. So Shaymin over here eating his leftovers. At this point, I really don't have any reason to switch out, seeing as Cradily is my special defense wall, and it's like if there's anything I want to take a Seed Flare, it's probably going to be Cradily. He actually ends up going for the Air Slash, which doesn't do anything, really no damage at all. He doesn't get the flinch or anything, and I just decided to Giga Drain just to get a little bit of damage off, and I was like, alright, this is actually perfect. I didn't run any damage calcs on how much a Seed Flare was going to do to me. I just knew that I would be able to tank one, and as long as he doesn't get the special defense drop, I should be alright. So Cradildo's over here, you know, swaying around, eating his leftovers at about full health. as the Shaymin is starting to lose his health from the freaking Toxic and all that fun stuff, so I'm like, fuck yeah. Here, I decide to go ahead and switch into Flappy, actually. Knowing he might go for the Seed Flare or the Air Slash, I can honestly take either. So I decide to go into this thing. He actually ends up resting with his Shaymin, so I was like, oh shit, it's a rest Shaymin with probably Sleep Talk. So that thing could be pretty scary. He's going to get all his health back, sleeping over there like a damn baby, and I decide to go for a Sludge Bomb as he's going to switch into the Swampert. So the Swampert is going to take some Stealth Rock damage, and then the Sludge Bomb's not going to do a whole lot to this thing. I probably should have gone for the Nasty Plot. I think he switched into his Swampert expecting this to be your usual Brave Bird physical attacking Crobat, but plot twist, sometimes I just decide to bring the special attacking one, which is, it can be really useful in a lot of situations like this. I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot here, which is kind of not the best play, really, considering he does have things that are faster than my Crobat, but he's going to go for a Scald. I know I can take that. As long as he doesn't get the burn, I'll be alright. And he doesn't get the burn, and I was like, fuck yeah, thank you, Scald, for once not burning me. Hell yeah. So here, I believe I just go for, after this poison damage, I'm just going to finish off the Swampert with another Sludge Bomb, as that is going to be a dead-ass Swampert, so that's nice. He did get his Stealth Rocks up with that thing, so I guess it sort of did its job. And at this point, I know that he can potentially switch into, like, the Aerodactyl or something like that. Yeah, he does end up going to the Aerodactyl, and really, I don't have a whole lot of switches into this thing. I can't really bring in Reuniclus because I took a lot of damage on that thing already. And he's going to finish off Flappy with an Ice Fang. So I decided to let Flappy die there. I kind of did its, you know, it sort of did its job. It probably would have been useful later for that Shaymin, but I really just did not want anything else to have a hard switch into the hard-hitting Mega Aerodactyl. So here I get a free switch into Porygon-Z, who is choice specs. So I'm going to be able to hit hard with whatever he wants to send in. He decides to bring in his little brother version of my Porygon-Z. He goes into his own Porygon-2. As I hit that thing with an Ice Beam, I really wish I would have clicked Tri-Attack there, but you'll see the specs Ice Beam does a decent amount of damage, which kind of tells me the EV spread on this Porygon-2. Here I decide to switch into Jelly, either expecting the Toxic or like any just sort of attack that I know I'd be able to take. He ends up going for the Recover, which is going to bring him back to full, and I'm at a decent matchup here. After the leftovers, I'm at about half, and I can potentially start setting up Calm Minds on this thing. He can't Toxic me, and it won't do any damage because of the Magic Guard ability, which is really cool. But now he's going to bring in his Shaymin, so he saw earlier on that my Reuniclus actually takes physical damage very nicely, so he probably realizes that I am a physical wall. I take this opportunity to go for the Recover just to get myself back to full as well, as I know I probably don't want to take an attack from this Shaymin, plus I don't have a whole lot that could hit this thing in return. I mean, I could potentially start setting up Calm Minds, but then again, it's just too risky. I really just don't want Jelly taking that type of damage, so here I decide to switch back into Kraydildo, as he is going to go for a Seed Flare, and as you'll see, this is the power of Shaymin right here. This thing is kind of overlooked sometimes. Seed Flare is going to connect finally, and Cradily is a special defense wall, max special defense, max HP. It does enough to knock me down to about half, and it gets the special defense drop. So that tells me I'm probably going to be unable to take another one, and even if I am going to be able to take another one, the only thing I can really do to this Shaymin is go for the Toxic. So I want to save Cradily. I know he has a hard time with this Cradily, so I'm going to save that thing for later. I decide to switch into Green Hornet, predicting another Seed Flare, and he actually makes a great play and goes for the Air Slash, which is barely going to be able to take out Mega Beedrill, so that's unfortunate. After running damage calcs, I did have a chance to live that, but it was a pretty slim chance. But anyways, that was a good play on his part. Now Mega Beedrill is unfortunately out for the count, so that kind of is a bummer. But this does allow me to switch into my Porygon-Z. I'm going to go ahead and scare this thing out. He actually is going to switch into his Porygon-2, I believe, so just bringing out the Porygon matchup again, as I decide to go for a Tri-Attack. And you'll just see the fucking power of Porygon-Z here, too. This max special attack, modest Porygon-Z with choice specs is actually pretty amazing. So I go for the Tri-Attack. It is going to do enough to be able to 2-hit KO on this thing. I actually end up getting the freeze also, which is hilarious. Sometimes I honestly forget that Tri-Attack can even get status conditions a lot of the time. But I get the freeze. It really didn't matter there because of the fact that it was a 2-hit KO on the Tri-Attack anyways. So down goes the Porygon-2, and we saw who the better Pory is. So fuck yeah. Now he's going to bring out the Aerodactyl as he goes for a Stone Edge and actually misses, which is really unfortunate. I was going to be able to actually live that, obviously, unless it was a critical hit, but really just kind of a bummer he missed that Stone Edge. That allows me to finish that thing off with a Tri-Attack, and yeah, so now he's going to bring out the Shaymin. I'm at full HP. I really wouldn't be at this amount of HP had he hit that Stone Edge, so it's kind of a little bit of a bummer, but honestly, you can't rely on freaking, you just can't rely on Aerodactyl. I guess it really wouldn't have mattered even if he did connect on that, because Seed Flare would have killed me anyways, now looking at it, but yeah, so at this point, I'm really stoked that I was able to knock Shaymin down to that amount of health. So all I have to do at this point is to switch into something faster and hope that this freaking Shaymin goes down. So I decided to switch into Flygon here just because I know I can kill this thing with the U-turn, and if he decides to switch out, I'll be able to get a matchup. So he does decide to switch out, which was kind of interesting to me because looking at that Shaymin's health, it didn't look like he was going to be able to have another switch into Stealth Rock. So at this point, I don't know if the Shaymin's going to die the next time it comes out or if he has enough health to live it, which is kind of shitty. But I go for the U-turn as he's going to bring in his Gyarados. He gets the Intimidate, so obviously U-turn's not going to be able to do anything. And yeah, so at least this allows me to get a matchup against the Gyarados. I'm going to go into Jelly, considering I'm full HP, I'm max defense. I should be able to take anything this thing wants to throw at me and then whittle it down with Psyshock. I know that Gyarados generally doesn't carry any recovery, so all I have to do is kind of whittle this thing down to the point where Flygon potentially could be able to take it out later. So he gets a critical hit on the first waterfall, which is actually kind of annoying, as I go for a Psyshock and do a decent amount of damage there. Seeing as his critical hit waterfall didn't do a whole lot to Jelly, I should be able to win this matchup unless he decides to start setting up Dragon Dances, which actually was my worst fear. But he goes for the taunt here, which was an interesting play. He decides to sack off the Gyarados. Knowing that I'm taunted, he's going to be able to ensure that I'm not going to be able to set up any Calm Minds or anything against his Shaymin, if it's able to even live the Stealth Rock's damage. So he went for the taunt there. He probably could have got some more damage off on me and might have helped him out, but the taunt was actually a pretty interesting play. So now he brings in the Shaymin. He lived the Stealth Rock's damage with 1 HP, he told me, and he is able to outspeed and get a rest off. So that is really unfortunate on my end. He actually lived the Stealth Rocks with 1 HP, so that was really good just awareness on his end, knowing how much Stealth Rock's damage does to his Shaymin. But I just go for a Psyshock. It's not doing enough damage, and at this point it's kind of annoying because I'm taunted. I'm unable to go for Calm Minds. If I was able to set up Calm Minds at this point, I would probably be able to honestly just get enough special defense to be able to take attacks from this thing, and then also have Psyshock do enough damage to maybe be a 2-hit KO. But he goes for the Sleep Talk here. Sleep Talk Shaymin is actually going to get rest the first time, which is unfortunate for him, but it's honestly a gamble whenever you're Sleep Talk resting shit. But I go for the Psyshock again. It's going to knock him below half. So at this point, my main focus is honestly just to end off this matchup with Shaymin at less than half health. After running damage calcs, I know that Flygon's Outrage is able to do at least like 45 to 50% of this thing's health. So he's going to go for the Sleep Talk again, and if he does manage to connect with an attack, it's not the end of the world. He gets the Air Slash, which is better than Seed Flare, so you know that's good. That allows me to get off another Psyshock, and honestly I'm just sitting in here really, I mean, I told you the plan. I really just need this Flygon. If I can get this matchup over with this thing at less than half health, I should be able to win the game. So Jelly's over here. It's kind of going to come down to whatever the dice roll is on the freaking the Sleep Talk. So he wakes up. He is able to get up a rest again after 2 turns of sleep. You're ensured that you're going to wake up. So he is able to go for the rest again after the wake up, and that brings him to full again. So my taunt actually wore off a couple turns ago, which is pretty nice. That allows me to have the option to either recover or start setting up Calm Minds. If I am able to set up Calm Minds on this thing and I get lucky on some Sleep Talk attacks, I might be able to even just win this matchup with just Uniclus. So he's going to go ahead and Sleep Talk again. Just over here, fucking sleepiest Shaymin I've ever seen. Talking in his sleep, goes for it, and he actually ends up getting a Seed Flare, which is pretty shitty for me. It's not going to end up killing me, but as you'll see, I go for the Calm Mind this turn, hoping that he was going to get a shitty dice roll and maybe get rest again on that last turn. Had he got rest again, that would have been really nice. It maybe would have ensured that Reuniclus was able to win this matchup, but now it all comes down to whatever he gets on this next Sleep Talk. If he gets any attack, Reuniclus goes down. If he gets Air Slash, I don't have enough health to take that. Seed Flare, obviously I can't take that, so let's see what he's going to get. He has a 1 in 3 chance to get rest, and he actually, wait for it, he gets rest on his Sleep Talk. So that is just honestly really terrible for him. This allows me to go for another Psyshock, which is going to do a whole lot of damage. And finally, Sleep Talk is working its magic in my favor, so that's really cool. The Shaymin, right as of now, is below half health, so I know that Flygon is going to be able to take this thing out, so I really just have to make sure he doesn't go for the rest again. He actually doesn't. He is just going to wake up, go for the Air Slash, which actually doesn't kill Jelly, and unfortunately he actually gets the flinch, which is kind of shitty, because that means he's going to be able to get 1 more turn of leftover recovery. So he is going to be able to take me out with whatever attack he goes for next, but he's going to get 1 more leftover recovery to put him at almost half health. So I have to just make sure that Flygon is able to come in and kill it. So He's going to eat his leftovers, eat his little half-eaten apple or whatever the fuck the picture is for leftovers, and that's going to put him just below half. So that is just the amount of HP Salamence needs to be able to take this thing out with an Outrage. So I bring in Scarfed Salamence, get hurt by the Stealth Rocks, doesn't matter. I click Outrage, and that is going to be a dead Shaymin. And that was an insane matchup, honestly. This Shaymin almost fucked me. If he got a little luckier on a couple more of those Sleep Talks, he might have been able to pull off the matchup there. But Darmanitan comes in, and unfortunately for him, Scarfed Flagon is going to be able to outspeed and finish it off with an Outrage. That was a really insane match. It came down to the wire with that Sleep Talk shenanigans, but thank you for the match, TheKillerNacho. Go ahead and check out his channel. His link will be in the description, and hit that thumbs up button on this video if you enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.